Welcome, this is Matt from Jaggers Brewing Co. Today we're talking about Thin Mint Stout. So before we talk about how we got here on this beer, you'll have to excuse the messy glass. I kind of tripped a little bit when I was walking over here on a stick. But so this is pretty much this year's edition of like a holiday beer or whatever. So I decided a Thin Mint Stout for this year. I thought that was pretty interesting. I've seen some people on these beers use things like Girl Scout cookies and stuff like that, but I wanted to hop right into this whole experience of the beer real quick before we go any further to talk about what I'm seeing, smelling, tasting, all that, and then we'll talk about the recipe and some of the other deals that we did to this. So right up front, very minty, just straight away, just very minty right up front on the aroma. Have a nice hint of chocolate on the back end of the aroma. And the thing that I noticed about this beer is that any of the chocolates that I've been able to pick up on it has been through more along the lines of the like dark chocolate and not the milk chocolate. So as you can see, it's got a pretty decent head, off-white tan color, and it is pretty black. I mean, you're not going to be able to see very much through that at all. Not very much. So let's go in for the mouthfeel. So it definitely has a lot more of the thicker, medium, higher mouthfeel to it, and that'll make sense here in a minute when you see the gravity and some of the other stuff that we've done to it. I feel like it's pretty well carved up, and as far as the mouthfeel goes, it's not like super thick though. It's not like motor oil or anything like that, but it feels just right. Along with the aroma, it feels just right. So on the taste, it has a very nice sweet mint right up front, and then rolls into those dark chocolate notes, which between our tinctures that we did and the grain bill that we used, I feel like it's a very good combination. So one of the interesting things that I noticed though is as this thing warms up, it becomes more and more like aromatic, and the mint and the chocolate intensify as it warms. And I also noticed though too, it seemed like as it warmed up, those tastes also kind of are more expressive too as it warms up. The mint is a very nice like sweet mint. It's not like spearmint or anything like that. And the chocolate is also that dark chocolate with a lot of that like roasted character, not so much the milk chocolate, sweet chocolate variety.
So after it was all said and done, this one came out to be right at about a 6% ABV beer. Let me get my notes here so I can go over the grain bill and some of the other notes for this brew day. So starting gravity was 1072 on this thing, and the final gravity was 1025 for an ABV of 6.17%. For my grain bill, I ended up double milling the grains because being a brew in a bag brewer, you know, I wanted to make sure that I had that increased efficiency that comes with that. Now, as far as the grain bill, what we ended up doing was it is 68.5% of Pale Malt 2-row US. And then we have 7.4% of Flaked Rye on it. Then we have 5.6% Chocolate Malt at the 450 SRM. And then we have Roasted Barley at the 5.6%. We also have Chocolate Rye Malt at 250 SRM at 5.6%. So the grain bill and all the temperatures and all that will be listed in the description below. For the water, we used RO water. I just used the standard mosquitoes in December. So for the water, we used RO water. And then for the water profile, we shot for the stout profile found in Beersmith, which has been working very great for me. So some of the additional stuff that went into the boil was the milk lactose. This is the second time that I've used it. So we did 1 pound of that, and then we did, let's see here, 22.1 IBUs of Hallertau Magnum at the 60-minute boil edition. Then we added our WhirlflocTablet, 15 minutes. We used Northern Brewer 13.1 IBUs worth at 15 minutes. We used our yeast nutrient at 10 minutes. And then what I did was I went ahead and got some mint leaves to throw in towards the end of the boil. I wanted to really try to help express the mint. And so I know, like a lot of people, for the Girl Scout type thin mint things that I had seen, people were using those cookies in the mash and then in secondary fermentation. Well, I wanted to try and gain all that through the natural type ingredients that I could, and so that's why you see the grains that I used, and I used mint leaves towards the end of the boil. Then let's see here. So we had those mint leaves at the last 7 minutes of the boil. And then at the last 5 minutes of the boil, we have 2.6 IBUs worth of Northern Brewer left. So I used the wort chiller. I got this thing down as far as I could. I want to say I think I stalled out right at about 90. And then I went ahead and transferred it to the all-rounder. I used my pump that's in that whole cool fermentation setup to make this beer. And so I brought that down to 58 degrees with that setup, and then after it hit 58, I went ahead and pitched the yeast. And so this is the only compromise that I had to make on this whole grain, or this whole beer really, is originally I wanted to use the Irish ale yeast. I don't know why. I just thought that maybe that would help accentuate things or something like that. I've used the Irish Ale yeast before. I just thought it might have been a good matchup. So they didn't have any, and I had to end up using, or what I ended up compromising on was going to be the Omega West Coast Ale 1. And so I saw that it was like a Chico strain. I figured that ought to be good enough. And to my surprise, I think that this thing has turned out phenomenal. I really think that the rye, the chocolate malt, just everything mingled really well together. I think all those components help intertwine and let those mint leaves express themselves. But we're not done yet. So what I had to end up doing was, or what I thought was best to do anyways, was I went ahead and made some tinctures, and I took another 2-ounce pack of those mint leaves like I did before for the boil. And so after stripping all the leaves off the stems and stuff, I ended up with 1 ounce, give or take. I mean, it was like really, really close, but about 1 ounce of mint leaves for my tincture. So after I did that, I covered that in vodka, and I let that set. And the second tincture that I made was with cacao nibs and vanilla beans. So I took 2 vanilla beans, I cut them up, I tried to strip out all the stuff that I could, and then I threw in those cacao nibs in the same mason jar, and I did the same thing that I did with the mint leaves. And so I covered that in vodka. And I did all that on brew day while I was waiting for my temperature to come down in the fermenter, or I was waiting for the boil or whatever. And so I shook those things up every day until it was time to add them. And on the mixing day, I went and I took my sample, put it in my glass, and I converted everything over to grams. And so I was using the my scale and all that. And once I found that right mixture, I multiplied that towards how many beers were left in the keg. And at that point, though, I discovered that I didn't have enough for the whole 5-gallon batch. I basically had half of what I was supposed to use or going to use. And at that point, I decided, well, okay, let's just go ahead and use both of those tinctures. Let's put them in here. Let's carb it up. Let's see what happens. And to tell you the truth, I really can't be more happy about this beer than I am now. I mean, I think this thing is phenomenal. The head has dissipated a little bit. It's very thin, but it's lacing pretty well, I feel like. Now that it's warmed up, that sweet mint is really kind of just popping out, and it just rolls straight into that like dark roasted chocolate. This thing is so good. I've had to really restrain myself from going and drinking this before shooting this. I've been able to have probably about 6 pints of it so far, and so now that I've got this video knocked out of the way, and I'm fixing to have my birthday party, I'll be able to pour a little bit more free-handedly. This thing's been sitting in the keg for about 3 weeks now, almost a month, so that's pretty cool that I haven't done anything with it. In fact, I didn't even taste it after putting those tinctures in until probably about almost week 3. I've just been kind of intimidated by it because I was like, oh, this is gonna be like the best thing ever, or it's gonna be the worst thing ever. And now that it's warmed up, bam, just the mint sweetness, and then it rolls straight into the chocolate. And so the reason why
I chose to add the rye to this in you know, the other malts anyways, was I was trying to mimic something that was going to be as close to that like chocolate covered wafer that is the Thin Mint Stout. And I don't think that like I nailed it necessarily, but I really feel like that rye, I really feel like that rye really mixes well with the mint. I was really surprised at that the rye doesn't necessarily just pop out there, that it's just kind of like a continuation of a little bit of that mint experience, and the chocolate experience too, for that matter. Like I don't think that if I didn't tell someone that there was rye in here that they would probably be able to pick it up. But I am totally stoked about this beer. I love this thing. I think that I'm going to end up brewing this probably at least once a year. Sadly to say, it's December, still early December right now, and it's like 80 degrees. We still have mosquitoes and some other yard pests flying around and whatnot. I really think that this would be awesome to drink with sitting by a nice little like campfire, solo stove fire, you know, with a cigar or something like that. So maybe here in a couple days, maybe it'll cool off enough to be able to experience that. But if you've tried to make a Thin Mint Stout or any kind of pastry stout like that, you know, let me know. Let me know what you think of this recipe. I hope somebody here tries to brew this recipe and tells me what they think. I think this is a very interesting beer, and I can't wait to share it with my family and friends here in a few days and see what they think about it. I've already shared it with one other person, and they think that it's phenomenal, as I do. I don't know what else to really say other than this is a really damn good beer. And thanks so much for coming and checking me out here and looking at this thing with me, talking about it. Cheers.